So I have absolutely no idea if anyone out there wants to watch this, or if anyone out there will get anything from this, but I wanted to make this video because I think it would be really helpful for me. So I'm really sorry if I am taking up your time and you're not interested, but if you are interested, then I really hope this helps. My name's Kat Mitchell and I am blessed to be in a very loving marriage. I rent a house with my gorgeous husband and I have a lovely little dog called Noodle, who I adore. But our family is not complete, shall we say. I've always been very open about my mental health, just to quickly gloss over that, because I might do another video on that at another point. I've suffered on and off with anxieties and depression in my lifetime, so that's been a battle that Andrew and I have faced and my family have faced over the years. But our most recent battle, and the one that I am making this video about, is actually the journey that we are currently on to try and have a family. And that's Noodle. So I'm just wondering whether I should go and something. Noodle! Noodle! She could have heard anything. It could be anything. So I've had 2 miscarriages, and I don't believe that. Hello, you gonna come up? Come, hang on a sec. Come here. Are you gonna come? Come here. Who's this? This is Noodle. This is Noodle. Hello, everybody. That's not what you sound like, is it? So I've had 2 miscarriages. Well, 3. You're right, Noodle. Noodle's right. I've had 3. The first one was just considered as a natural miscarriage. So I got to 6 weeks pregnant and I lost the baby naturally. The next one was complicated. Andrew and I were living in a lovely little cottage near Haworth in Yorkshire, and again I was about 6 weeks and I had terrible pains in my stomach to the side, and I thought, I'll just ride it out, just nip to the loo. And I got to the top of the stairs and just couldn't stand. I was in so much pain, I couldn't breathe, I couldn't get comfortable, and the next thing I knew I was in Airedale General Hospital and on gas and air and on morphine and all the rest of it. And it turned out that that pregnancy was ectopic and it was in my fallopian tube. I was obviously admitted to the hospital, and it was decided that the pregnancy had ruptured my fallopian tube and I was bleeding quite badly internally, and the decision was made that that tube should be removed. Now obviously that was an incredibly scary time, a really, really scary time, and we were lucky in a lot of ways because we've been told that had the pain not been so intense, I could have bled to death if we hadn't have done what we did when we did it. It could have been a lot worse. So in that regard, you know, we were really lucky, we were really blessed. And when that happened, it was it was the most devastating news ever. And this is the bit where I think this video is going to really help me, because as a woman, all I ever really wanted to do in life, apart from making a difference to other people and helping them, was I wanted to be married and I wanted to be a mother. And it felt as though my body was failing me. I couldn't accept that it was just one of those things could happen to anyone. I completely blamed myself, and it took me a long time. Yes, Noodle. She's just laying on the floor, just woofing at nothing right now. Yeah, I just couldn't accept that it was just a natural thing. I felt somehow that it was my fault, and I really kicked myself about it for a long time. So years later, when we managed to fall pregnant again, we were overjoyed. We were absolutely overjoyed, because we'd been told that although it did affect our chances a little bit, we still had an 85% chance of becoming pregnant naturally, which was wonderful and just what we wanted to hear. The body is an amazing thing, and I don't want this video to come across as a pity party for me, because it's not. It's just not. But I know that there will be people out there who have gone through similar things, and it's important for you to know that you're not alone in any of this, and don't blame yourself the way that I did, because it doesn't help at all. So our second pregnancy, or our third pregnancy I should say, again we were about 6 to 8 weeks, and I was singing at the bandstand in Ilkley, and I had terrible stomach pains, and I'd gone to the local church, which is, if anybody knows, Ilkley is just off around the corner of the bandstand, and the band that I sang with at the time was like a second family to me. They were very caring, understanding people, and I went to the bathroom during the interval, went back to try and sing, and I could barely stand. The next thing I knew, I was lying on the grass in front of the bandstand, couldn't straighten my legs out, my knees were tucked up, I could barely breathe, and I was being bundled then into our car, and Andrew was driving me hell for leather back to the hospital over at Airedale General from Ilkley, which seemed such a long journey, and on the way there I was saying to Andrew, it's happened again, I know it's happened again. I couldn't breathe, I couldn't think, the pain, it was coming in and out like waves, but the calmest of the waves was still so intense, and the breathing was shallow, and I couldn't get comfortable. I was throwing myself forwards and backwards in the car trying to find somewhere to settle, and I just couldn't settle. And again I was taken into A&E, and then eventually admitted, and they told me it was ectopic in my other fallopian tube, and it had to be removed. At that point in my life, I couldn't see what my purpose was anymore. I just couldn't. I felt empty. I felt like a failure. think at one point I actually said to Andrew, look, I completely understand if you don't want to be with me anymore, because what good am I to you, you know? And all of that was completely irrational, because I loved him, he loved me, and, you know, things like this you can't plan for. Why should you plan for something as awful as this? And it took a lot of processing, and to this day I do catch myself sometimes thinking, you're not a real woman. You're not a real woman, and Andrew deserves better. Your family deserves better, because my mum has been desperate for grandchildren for so long, and you know, if your body's fighting back, it almost didn't matter what the nursing staff and the specialists and everybody said. I had made the decision that my body was fighting back and was saying, no, this is not going to happen. This is never going to happen. So it was really tough. And over the years, Andrew and I have talked about different methods of exploring a family unit, because I so badly want to be able to love a young person and bring a young person up and have that family unit in place. And we talked about fostering, and we talked about adoption. So with those things in mind, we started contacting people about fostering and stuff. And we thought that we'd got quite far along the fostering line until they asked us the question, well, are you planning on trying IVF? And we'd sort of talked about it briefly, but we'd not looked into it, so we weren't aware what was available to us. Now, we live in the borough of Leeds in West Yorkshire, and over here on the NHS, one attempt is what you can have on the NHS. I think in Halifax you get 2, and I'm not sure about elsewhere. So when we were being quizzed, we sort of said, oh, well, yeah, we might have a try and see what can happen, because obviously we can't do it ourselves, because there's, you know, the bridges are burned, the motorways are closed, sort of thing. It's not going to happen. But to all intents and purposes, everything else is there, and everything else apparently would work. And it was at that point that the people from the foster agency said, well, we won't even consider you as candidates. If you're planning on having a family of your own, we can't put a young person into that environment. And we were sort of dumbfounded at that, because they always seem to be crying out for foster families and people to adopt and stuff like that, and it just didn't seem to make any sense. We had the space, I had the time because I was self-employed, and we certainly had the wherewithal. We wanted to, but they said, well, no, because you don't know what your situation's going to be, and an unstable environment like that is no good. And when we thought about it, we agreed, absolutely, 110%. If we wanted to be there for somebody, we wanted to fully commit to being there for somebody. So we asked the question, you know, well, at what point, once we have our own, potentially, at what point would we be able to be considered? Because we might still want to go ahead with fostering in the future. And the answer that we got was very vague. It was a case of, well, when they're settled, sort of thing, when they're independent. It's like, well, is that when they're 2, when they're 5, when they're 16? And the answer just didn't materialise in sort of a solid form. So we kind of put the fostering and adoption thing to bed. and decided to chase down the IVF route. So here I am making this video, again, not as a pity party, not even to talk about the miscarriages, but I would openly discuss that if anybody wants to in the future. I would happily, maybe not the right phrase, but I would, gladly go through my experience if anybody felt it would be useful for them, because at the end of the day, a lot of this seems to be a bit taboo, and it happens, and in today's day and age, I don't think anything like this should be taboo. So if you have any questions for me and you want to leave questions in the comments, I will go through them and I'll try and answer as many questions as I possibly can. Like I say, this isn't rehearsed, this is just me ranting for my benefit, and if it helps somebody else, then wonderful. And yes, I am wearing a fluffy onesie because why not? It's cold. So IVF, wow, this has been such a roller coaster. When we first went through to the GP and through to the fertility clinic, I was a very solid 17 stone and 17 stone 1. I am just under 5'9", like just under 5'9", and according to every medical thing out there, I should be between about 10.5 stone and 11.5 stone to be absolutely perfect weight for my height. So at 17 stone 1, I was far from it. So much so that I was told that unless I lost weight and got my BMI down to 30, that I would not be considered at all for IVF. It just wasn't safe, it wasn't done, and the NHS has certain rules and regulations they have to follow, because obviously if you're going to be having something done, they want you to have the best chance you can. It's a lot of time, it's a lot of effort, and it's a lot of money that they pump into these things, so it's important that you give yourself the best chance to give them the best chance. They did tell us at the time if we wanted to pay and go privately, then weight probably wouldn't be as much of an issue, but we don't have the funds to do that. We just don't. And if I couldn't make the effort to lose weight for my potential little person, then what's the point? What's the point? I should be willing to do whatever it takes, and I am. So I'm sat here now, no longer 17 stone 1. I have a BMI of about 29 now, and last time I weighed in about 13 stone 13, I think that's right. So I've done an awful lot of work, and it has been a lot of hard work. A friend of ours is a personal trainer, and he helped motivate me in the first instance, and he was superb. He was so good. He was patient, he was funny. I didn't feel like I was being treated just like another number, because my experience of gyms and personal trainers in the past has been me being shouted at a lot for not doing what I'm supposed to do when I'm supposed to do it, and working alongside our Justin, it wasn't like that at all. I looked forward to going to the gym and spending time with him and pushing myself, and every time I felt like I was going to give up, he helped me find the energy for just one more. And when I felt that I had achieved that just one more, I wanted to push myself for another 2 or another 3, and it was such a lovely environment to be in. I'll never be able to thank him for giving me my confidence back and my drive back, but he did. So the weight wasn't easy to lose, and it wasn't helped by the fact that I found out that I had thyroid issues, which I've never known about in my entire life. So on top of the weight issue, I was then informed that I had to get my thyroid functioning correctly, because if my thyroid was not working correctly, there were potential issues with that. There's still so much research being done into IVF and the effects of IVF from things like thyroid and stuff like that. So there's nothing incredibly conclusive, but there are a lot of indicators that say thyroid is an issue when it comes to miscarriages. So obviously, having had 3 miscarriages, different forms in the past, I wasn't gonna chance it. No way, no how. So I was informed that to get my thyroid sorted out, I needed to go on thyroxine, and thyroxine is a drug that helps to level it out, and you take it in increments of 25 micrograms. And for every 25 that you take, it has to be in your system for a month, and then you get your blood tests done to see where your thyroid level functions are, and then obviously it gets increased. And I was informed in the first instance that the likelihood would be that I'd need to have at least 125 micrograms of thyroxine. So given the time sequence for that, month, Andrew and I tried to work out how long it would take us before we could actually start the IVF program. So it was a complete shock to us when my bloods were tested at 75 micrograms and I was informed that my thyroid was behaving itself again, which was just so unexpected and such fantastic news. It just blew us away. I thought I was going to an appointment and they were going to say, right, yes, we'll have to up your thyroxine levels again, and we're nearly at the 125 mark, then we might be somewhere close. No, it was a case of 75 is doing the trick. Come for an appointment, have a chat with a specialist. So I was like, right. So we came to have a chat with the specialist, and they said, your thyroxine levels are good, your thyroid seems to be functioning. However, once you start the IVF process, the chances are that you'll need to up your thyroxine again because of how your body will react to the treatment. So he gave us an option. He said, look, you're at the upper end of normal now. So do you want to wait until you start your treatment and then be assessed and see if it needs to go up? Or do you want me to put you up onto 100 micrograms now? Now, to Andrew and I, it was a no-brainer because it would give my body time to get used to the new levels. So we instantly went up to 100 micrograms, and that's where I am currently. And fingers crossed, everything seems to be going fine. So the IVF process for me so far has been just a big roller coaster, because certainly before that particular appointment, every time I went there seemed to be something else. It was like, your thyroid's not working, your weight's gone up, oh, your thyroid's fine, no, your weight's still too high, oh, your weight's come down but your thyroid needs sorting. And it was hard, it was really hard, and it was very emotional, because at the end of the day, the only thing that we're bothered about is, can we start? Can we have a child, please? That's all we wanted to know. Can we have a child, please? So I've had lots of internal scans, and when they scan, they look for the follicles in the ovaries to make sure that there will be eggs that they can harvest and use going forward. So we've had lots of scans. I was given injections to take myself at home, and I had to take them every night at the same time every night. I had to use the syringe and the little vial myself and administer it myself. Needles have never been my friend. if anyone ever meets my mum, she'll tell you that when I was a baby, if ever I had to have an injection, she had to have a bit of Milky Bar to hand, because I would scream and scream and hold my breath. So my relationship with needles has never exactly been great, but again, this is something I had to do for the outcome that we wanted. I had to do it. And the very first injection that I did at home, I remember the nurse saying to me that I had to grab the smile underneath my belly button, squish the flesh together, then put the needle in, let go, and then, insert the stuff from the needle. And I had the needle prepped, and I had hold of my smile, and I couldn't connect the needle to the skin. I just couldn't do it. And I called Andrew upstairs, and I was shaking, and I said, I know I've got to do it, but what if it hurts? What if this? What if that? I was crying. I was apologising for being pathetic, and I was so frightened. It was looking back, it was totally irrational. I mean, if it hurts, it hurts, but it's what needs to happen. And the nurses and the specialists, they know what they're talking about, and if that's the way it's got to be, that's the way it's got to be. So Andrew just put his arm around me, and he says, right, we'll count to 3, and then you're just going to put it in. It'll be fine. Once it's in, it's in. And it was only small. I mean, the needle itself is probably about that length, just my thumbnail length. It's not a very deep needle, it's a very fine needle, but it was the fact that I was having to put it into myself. And I've never done it before, and certainly not in my smiley bits. And we did it, and I did it, and it felt like, if you've ever just had like a little sting or something like that, it felt like that at first, and then it just disappeared. The pain just went, the sting, the burn just went. I didn't bleed, I didn't pass out, which was good. And I got used to it, and I did that for some time. And then when I went back to the specialist, they said, right, now you can start your other injections. And I was like, oh my God, more injections, no. Sorry, that's just me putting my glasses up. It's not like total, it's not like that. And these injections burn, like they burn. If you've ever been bitten by a horsefly, the itch that you get and the burn that you get, that's what this second injection's like. And you have to do both. You have to do the original one that doesn't hurt, and then the burny one. And for that one, there was like a vial of liquid, just a little vial of liquid, and 2 little things with, it looks like white powder discs inside. And you have to use a really long needle and inject the liquid into the first white thing, swish it around, suck it out, and then put all of that into the second white thing, swish it around, suck it out. Swap the needle head of the syringe for a smaller one like the other one, and then inject that one. So all of a sudden I'd gone from no pain, it's fine, little tiny injection, I can do this, to little tiny injection and oh my goodness, out every night. And nearly every time I've taken the needle out of that one, it's bruised, it's bled a little bit, it's not pleasant at all. And these are the things that people don't tell you, and in the long term it doesn't matter to me. It really doesn't matter if the outcome is the outcome that we want. But I think it's important for people to know that this happens, because then when it happens to you, it's not a surprise. If you know it's going to sting, then you psych yourself up, it's gonna sting. But the outcome could be that you could have a little person in your life. So just suck it up, let it sting, you know. So we went for my next scan after stabby every night, and now on top of my stabby routine, I have a very exciting thing to do where I have to fill what looks like a really long tampon applicator with gunk from a tube. That's the best way I can describe it. So you squeeze the gunk, the applicator fills up, and yes, you have to insert it pretty much the same way that you would a tampon, and the gunk goes as far in as it can, and you do that before bed. Yeah. I actually read the leaflet for this stuff, and it said that some people have discomfort and things like that. I've only done it once. I've only done it the once, but I didn't feel any discomfort. I just felt icky cold stuff inside. That's how it feels to me. It wasn't helpful that last night when I did it for the first time that Noodle, my little dog, jumped up on the bed and was watching me. That was not pleasant. She does like to be with me most of the time, and she comes to the bathroom when I go for a wee and stuff like that, but I was not expecting that. That was just sort of staring at me. Please don't stare at me. So I know that's very graphic, and I'm sorry. You can just not watch and don't listen to me if you want. Again, this is kind of cathartic for me. So that's what I started last night, and I have my next scan on Sunday. Tomorrow is Saturday. I have my next scan on Sunday, and if everything is behaving itself and my little follicles are growing well, we could be harvesting our eggs next week. Can you tell I'm a bit excited? So I hope that this video has been helpful for someone or interesting for someone, and I hope that the next time I do one of these, obviously there won't be all the backstory next time because you know you've heard it all already, but hopefully next time I do one of these I will have some super duper whooper news, and yeah, hope is a good thing, always a good thing. So if you have any questions, if you don't feel like I've given you enough details, or if you're interested in anything else that I've mentioned, either my mental health stuff or my singing or anything like that, then just drop me a quick message, and hopefully we can stop these subjects being so taboo and mysterious, and open people's eyes so that they feel that they can talk about it and it's okay. You know, miscarriage is a horrible thing to go through, absolutely horrible thing to go through. Depression and anxiety is one of the loneliest things to go through in the universe, because you truly don't believe at the time that anybody else could ever feel anywhere near the same as you. And because we don't talk about these issues, I think sometimes people continue to feel that way, and that's sad. That saddens me a lot, because there are billions and billions of people out there who go through the same thing. So if you have any questions or anything like that, then please feel free to comment. And if nobody watches this video, well, that's fine too. It was for me. So thank you very much, Internet. Thank you very much, YouTube. And I look forward to making my next vid.